Hey, I'm Sarah Tegender, international speaker and trainer for a $40 million division in healthcare. With over a decade of experience working with healthcare providers, I believe that a healthcare practice should do more than just pay back student loans. Each week, I'll bring you the tips, tricks, and experts you need to build your practice both on and offline. Smart people take notes, so grab a pen or open up the Notes app on your phone as we dive into the Health of Your Business podcast. It's been on my bucket list to have an attorney come onto this podcast to tell you about your legal needs as you take your healthcare practice and you create some online components to it. It could be that you want to start a podcast. Maybe you want to speak on someone else's stage to help grow your list and your audience. Maybe you're looking at a digital product or a group product. That's exactly how I started. It was actually in one-to-one consulting. And I'll tell you a little bit more about my story and how I discovered Bobby Klinck inside this podcast. But I only bring you people that I feel so wildly passionate about, people that I've either been in a program with before, I heard them somewhere else, I had some kind of benefit from their message. That's usually when I reach out and I say, hey, do you want to come on the Health of the Business podcast? And do you want to come and talk to my friends about your expertise? And that's exactly what I did with Bobby Klinck. I reached out to him because I said, I have really been loving what you've been doing in both the legal world and, guys, this is like a two-for episode, what he's doing in the marketing world. See, and Bobby and our paths, unfortunately, didn't quite cross when he was in Boston. I was a little bit younger, so I wasn't quite living downtown when he was at Harvard Law. But then he turned into an online entrepreneur. But is really not your typical lawyer. He doesn't do suits, hates legalese more than you do, and has a tendency to make lame pop culture references and dad jokes that I just find absolutely endearing. Once you're in his email funnel, you too will feel like you are good personal friends with Bobby Klinck. His online business is thriving because he's doing things differently. And it's exactly what I want you to think about, how you show up with your tribe, your community. He's tried all the same strategies from all the same experts, even more, I think, than I have. And he threw it all out the window and started marketing his own way. And he really gives us things that I've been on my bucket list to ask him for years now. He goes ahead and reveals those in this podcast. I really and truly hope that someday soon I get to meet Bobby Klinck in real life, because I think he's one of my online superheroes in this space. This has been a podcast episode that was one of my bucket list interviews, and I hope you enjoy it as much as I enjoyed speaking with Bobby. I already told you, Bobby, that this feels like I'm meeting a celebrity. So, you're here, Bobby Klinck, on the podcast. So what people don't know is that you're the reason why I even have a business. I didn't tell you this story, that my first ever client was a personal provider of mine who looked at me and said, I want you to work with me. And I said, I don't work with people. And she said, well, I would like you to. And so I went on the internet and I went to a group that I was part of and said, shoot, I need a contract. Who's my contract person? And they all came back saying, Bobby Klinck, Bobby Klinck. And I just went all in with a whole bundle of contracts because I didn't even realize how many I needed. I needed all of them. I didn't have a podcast guest testimonial waiver, and I didn't have a terms and conditions on my website and a VA contract, even though I had VAs. And oh my gosh, yikes. Why? Bobby, can we just start with why are there so many contracts and where should you start?
So can we just blame the lawyers? I mean, that's what we ought to do. And again, I had that, I'm going to forget. I don't remember which one of his plays it's from, but Shakespeare has the famous quote, the first thing let's kill all the lawyers, which somebody gave me that when I graduated law school as a mug, thinking it was an insult. Now, the backstory on that, by the way, is that it's a story where the person who says that wants to have a coup and have anarchy. And he says, the first thing we have to do is kill all the lawyers. So I take it as a good sign that theoretically we keep society in check, but we really do cause a lot of problems, don't we? I mean, look, there are a lot of things you could do and a lot of agreements you could have, but it doesn't have to be overwhelming. It doesn't have to really kind of create a big problem. I just tell people, remember this simple rule. If you got an agreement that's important to your business where if the other side, welched on the agreement and didn't follow through, that it would hurt you, you should have it in writing. And it really should be that simple. So, don't worry about it for the little stuff. If it's, little, piddly deals, but anything that matters, you should have a written agreement with. And I actually came to this though, by the way, not from a lawyer perspective. I came to it from the perspective of having a really bad experience myself. My backstory, I was a traditional lawyer for much of my career. I graduated law school in 2002. I held really fancy, positions at really prestigious law firms. I worked as an AUSA, as a federal prosecutor. And then I was coming out of that job and I joined this small law firm. And we didn't get an agreement in place about how would I ever become an owner? How would I ever get equity? Which, if you join a big law firm, you don't have that agreement, but it's not a big deal because you're getting a regular paycheck. But this was a small entrepreneurial law firm where we did contingency fee plaintiff work. So I would go 6 months, 9 months without getting a paycheck. And I was always treated fairly, but the problem was I had all the guaranteed downside and I had no guarantee on the upside. If we'd hit some big, huge payday, they didn't have to pay me anything other than, just kind of make sure I had a wage. So my wife gets pregnant and I say, hey, we should probably figure this out. And we couldn't. And it led to, we kind of talked about it for a little bit, but then it didn't. And it all came to a head over a weekend when my daughter was 3 months old. And we couldn't come to terms. I was sitting, I'm in my basement where my studio, my office is. My office was in a different space. I remember to this day, we had a conference call between the three partners. And I was holding my baby. And I remember when the call was over, it was snowing. And I looked over at my wife. I said, we're going to the office right now. It was a Sunday night. I went, dropped all my stuff off and picked up all my stuff. And so I had to start my law firm, Klinck LLC, back in 2014, not because I wanted to, but because I didn't get it in writing at the beginning. And I learned my lesson. And it's not just the financial pain. One of those guys flew through Hurricane Sandy from Florida to the Bahamas through Hurricane Sandy to see me get married in a 10-person airplane. I haven't talked to him since the first day of March in 2014. And all because we were dumb and didn't get it in writing. And so I have a passion for it because I've experienced the pain and I want to help other entrepreneurs not have to experience that pain.
It just gives you so much confidence. And I think that a lot of us have so many stories, whether it's, we had a bad deal with a contractor at our home, or we didn't understand, the terms and conditions. I mean, how many times have I just bought something at a store, like a big box store, and I couldn't figure out if I could return it or not? There's all these little agreements that get us frustrated every day. And I think that's such a blessing because you've helped so many people avoid that pain. And that there's so many messages in there for all of us as entrepreneurs. And I'm going to tell you, I come from a long lineage of attorneys, actually. My family went to Suffolk. I have two family members who went to Suffolk Law, one who went to BU Law. And my great uncle's claim to fame is that his first case was the Boston Strangler with alongside F. Lee Bailey. So yeah, he worked there.
So it's funny. I'm the opposite. I'm the first attorney in my family on either side. Basically, I come from a family of business owners and entrepreneurs. And my dad was not really happy about me becoming a lawyer because his experience, he owned a chain of drugstores. His experience with lawyers was lawyers suing him in slip and fall cases, lawyers suing them, and him being really annoyed by his lawyers being friendly with the lawyers on the other side. I said, well, yeah, they're professional. They have to. But that was his experience. So he didn't love it. I don't know if he really likes what I do now more because he doesn't really understand it. He says he does something on the internet. Like that's what he tells his friends. He does something on the internet. I say, just tell him I'm LegalZoom, but for a certain group of people, and maybe that'll help.
That's hysterical. And I like that you make that comparison, because you can just go online, you can buy templates for whatever and individually. I really just think that a legal bundle makes a lot of sense. And you just sent out an email about bundles and why you love bundles. And that's when I saw that. Yeah, it was a big investment. It was a leap because you can't see what's on the other side either. I don't know if I can like return it. I'm pretty sure once you open it, you've cut the tags off of it and stuck it in the wash, and it is what it is. And so, I wanted it to be as good as it was. And it blew my mind in the fact that you keep adding things. Like you keep adding things. Just this week, I got new things added to my bundle. So thank you. I didn't pay you anymore and I appreciate you, but why does that make sense to you?
So if it makes here, I'll make you feel worse though, a little bit here, Sarah. Cause I mean, you bought it and you've gotten stuff since then. Some of the people who have it bought my first ever product. It was a success in the online space and paid $247 and they've gotten this thing because they continue to get it. But my view is like, again, like I sell a lot of stuff in my template shop. I've got individual templates. I got small packs and then I got the big pack. And I should look at the exact numbers to get the exact total, but I can tell you comfortably that probably 70% or more of our revenue comes from people who just say, I'm going to buy the whole thing. Yeah. And the reason why is that I just want to give people peace of mind. I want to deliver this notion that, hey, I buy these and I never have to buy another legal template again. Now, I want to be clear, Sarah, when you get to have an 8-figure business, you're going to want to hire a lawyer and work with them, specifically. But until you get to the point that you need to do that, I just wanted to provide this peace of mind of knowing that. And, some of it is just we add stuff because people ask for it. And some of it is like, oh yeah, we should do that. And oftentimes, by the way, it's out of necessity. So like we've added this month, we added a virtual event agreement, a group coaching agreement, and a digital product agreement. Digital product is different, but I ran a virtual event last year. So I had to create the agreement for myself. And so at some point I'm like, why don't I make it into a template that other people can use? That would just make sense. And the same thing with group coaching. I've got a group coaching program. And so I created a group coaching. And so it's like, okay, and what I'd always told people in the past, you could use my course agreement and modify it for group coaching. But that's easier for me as a lawyer to do than it is for you. As someone's like, I don't really want to have to mess with this stuff. And so that's why we've kind of continued to expand it and just make it better and better. And why not? But also there's a marketing lesson here, which is I have trained people that you always want to buy from me early. Because if you do, I take really good care of you. And so people who've been in my world for a long time, they figured that out. So as a result, when I come out with a new offer, which I don't really do on the legal stuff anymore, but like on the marketing stuff, they jump on it because they know getting in on the ground floor is going to be their best opportunity and it's only going to get better from there. And that has paid off for me because I've built this kind of reputation. And I think that's an important part of my journey that people can learn from.
Yeah, I've learned so much from you. You've helped me so much. Starting again, just back to like the legal side, it's been so helpful because there were things I didn't even know I needed. And then my team can go in there. Maybe it's like my testimonial waiver. We just make it an SOP. They can figure it out, my team, and put it right into any form agreement. We use monday.com. It's all in there as automations. And, but then again, on the marketing side, I've taken so many great clues from you. And Bobby, you don't sound anything like a Harvard grad attorney in your marketing. Like you sound more like the guy that I just wish that we could go meet over at Fenway Park and go have a beer and catch the game and hang out. And so this is a weird question, but how did you figure out how to sound like yourself in marketing?
Well, so that was hard. And it was hard because I had spent so long not being me. And the backstory is this. I was in a punk rock band in college. Like that's who I was. And then I go to Harvard Law School. And like if you've watched Legally Blonde, there's not a lot about that movie that's accurate, except when she's sitting there in that circle at the beginning and they're talking about all the things they've done. That was my experience. Like I was literally, I graduated college in 3 years. So I'm this, I think it was like 21. Yeah, I was 21. I'm this 21-year-old kid who's went to public school through high school, then the University of Texas at Austin. And now suddenly I'm at Harvard listening to these people. Oh, I've got a Rhodes Scholar and I'm this and I'm that. It was this weird experience, but it shifted for me. And I then went to jobs where I put on a suit and like got sucked into that and kind of felt like I had to do that. And so I did that for a long time. And when I was an entrepreneur, like if you go back to when I first entered the online space, it was 2017. And if you look, literally the headshot I have in some of these early things is me in a suit, literally still wearing a suit, like in the lawyer pose off to the side with my, arms crossed and looking at the camera, like that ridiculous lawyer pose. So that was the first thing. Then I got a slightly better thing with me just in a blue shirt, not a suit, but still like, a button-up shirt. And I did that. But what I found was the more I was just me, the more people liked me. Now, some people don't like me. Let me be very clear. Some people are very annoyed by me, and that's okay. But what I've discovered is that, just being willing to just be myself has been my big differentiator, partly because it sets me apart, but also, and I think this is another one of the key things, and I lucked into this. And it's become more and more true. And I talked to one of my group coaching members when she was talking about not liking social media. And when we dug into it, we recognized it was because she felt like she had to put on a mask and be someone else when she showed up. And you know what? If that's what you feel like, you're not going to do it. Whereas me, I don't have to do anything other than me. For people who just listen, I'm wearing a t-shirt that says I'm Bobby. I'm wearing a black t-shirt that says I'm Bobby, and that's it. And I don't worry about stuff. And the nice thing is, and I make a reference to the movie Spy Game, if you've ever seen it, Robert Redford and not Sean Penn. Why am I blanking on Brad Pitt? And Robert Redford is training Brad Pitt in how to be a spy. And he tells him to go get, a phone number from this woman. And he goes over and he comes back with it. And Robert Redford says, well, what did you tell her? And he tells him all the things. He said, well, you just told her 3 lies that have to be true. And I think about that's what a lot of marketers are doing. They're putting on this fake thing and they have to remember it's not like an active lie, but okay, how am I supposed to show up for this? How am I supposed to? What if you don't have to do any of that? Just be you. And if you do that, it will make a huge difference.
I tried to act in middle school and in high school. I never made the plays. When I did and I got a part, I would get off. And my mom was very disappointed with me. She ended up going on, and becoming an attorney, but she thought at first that she was going to be a theater major and started her first year as theater undergrad. And she said, Sarah, you're just really good at acting like yourself. You're just not good at acting like any of the characters on stage. And I think that is what makes us really great marketers. I think that's what makes it easy for me to show up and do a podcast, easy for me to do a Facebook interview, easy for me to do, speak on stage, because I just go on stage as Sarah Tegender. You go on stage as Bobby Klinck. It's super simple. You know what the lines are and, take it or leave it. That's it.
Yeah. And I mean, it's so funny because there's a lot of things I think back to my years as a lawyer, and especially when I was a prosecutor, because when I was a prosecutor is when I was in court before juries all the time on a regular basis. And it's this funny thing because one of the things I was really good at and that you actually learn is one of those things that you don't really get until you're doing this role. Especially as a prosecutor, I had no idea what witnesses the other side, or I would know what witnesses they were going to call, but I had no idea what they were going to say. I had no right to find out what they were going to say. So I would just be sitting there listening. And oftentimes the stories they told were just so ridiculous that literally what I would do, and some of my other prosecutors commented on it, that I had perfected this. Like, I would basically be asking questions. I didn't care what they said. I would be looking over at the jury like, can you get a load of this crap? I mean, that's literally kind of that was what my face was saying to them. I didn't say it, but literally, and people have said my face is a walking gift maker. I just make faces. I can't help it. And so what I say is, if I were trying to not do that, it would, I'd be boring. And I don't know where the expression came from, so I can't credit the person, but someone smart said it: love me or hate me, there's no money in between. And it really is true that when you kind of just are willing to be yourself, people who are meant to be drawn to you will be drawn to you. You'll repel the people that aren't meant to be your people, but you know what? That's fine. People in my audience, like we track a stat about the number of people who are 5-star. It's basically the people who have engaged with email content within the last 30 days. And something like 82% of my active email list is on that, which tells you something, that people either like get a couple of my emails and like, whoa, I'm out. Or they're people who just read my emails on a consistent basis. And that's what you want. You want that group of fans who are just, they're drawn to you, and you are their person. And that's what you're looking for.
But I mean, there's so many different types of emails, right? So, and I never saw anyone break them down as simply as you have. And I've bought all the courses. I've bought all the things. And I mean, you in your BOMU, I don't know. My grandma sometimes listens to the podcast, so I don't know if I can like say.
We'll say bomb you. We'll say bomb you.
Bomb you. We can say that. Okay. Yeah. There's a little. This isn't an explicit podcast, Bobby Klinck, so I can't say the full name, but it's like bad
something.
Bum Online Marketing University. You guys get the hint here. But you really went through there and outline. I send all my clients there when they need to understand a nurture sequence versus an onboarding sequence versus a sales sequence versus a newsletter. And that's another thing. I mean, you've really helped identify where not just me, but a lot of my clients I send to you need to audit their different communications or just have a checklist. Do you have those? I mean, sometimes they're like, oh, I made an opt-in, so I have a sequence for that, but they don't have all the other sequences. But you also say newsletters are dead. So
no, I don't say they're dead. And I've revised that. Revised that slightly. But I used to say that the word newsletter is a dirty word. And I still largely believe that. And here's what I mean. Have you ever heard, have you ever said, woohoo, I got a newsletter? No, because a newsletter is boring. It's a bunch of stuff. And it's really like, I'm weird. To me, words matter, and the words we use affect the things that we say. So what I preached forever was that you should be sending a weekly email, but please don't call it a newsletter. And it shouldn't be about content. And I have changed that slightly. Now I send a weekly email and a weekly roundup email. I still don't want to use the word newsletter, but it's a newsletter, But even in that, I tweak it. But I still consider my weekly email, my Tuesday email, the real key to the ongoing sequence. And what it is, and part of why I like the way I teach it is, I think it takes pressure off people, because your goal with that email is not to get a click. It's not to convert. It's to connect with your audience. And you do that through a story about your life. And it can be a small story. I tell people, think Seinfeld, not Game of Thrones, like literally those little tidbit things of your life that you can tell people, that you can kind of tease some kind of message out of that relates to whatever your content is that week. And that's what you do. But what I recognize, I'm actually in the middle of editing. I've got an email marketing book. It'll probably be 2022 before it's out. But it's called Email Marketing That Doesn't Suck. And one of the things I really refined in working through that book is that the magic of the weekly email isn't that stories are more fun than content. Because now that I have this roundup newsletter, people love it because it's snarky. I rant about things. I complain about things. I add my personality. But the reason why these Tuesday story emails are so good is because I have effectively become a character to my audience. I have become a TV show, and they want to tune in each week to say, what in the world is this crazy guy going to tell me this week? And that's why they do it. And really, I mean, thank COVID, I guess, in some sense, for helping me come to this realization, because I've been binging a lot of TV shows. And what I realize is, even when I binge something, I know it's going to end. And when it ends, I feel sad.
I am so sad when that happens. I thought I was the only one. I walk around like a zombie for 3 days.
Well, and like, in the old days, I thought it was because all of a sudden I wasn't going to have like that show. And I thought there's not going to be any more good TV. I no longer have that feeling, but it's like suddenly these characters who I had become part of my life are gone.
I know, it's a breakup every time. And then I say, I can't get into another show. I can't do it again.
But here's the thing. What if your audience had the same feeling about you because of your emails? That's what doing story-based emails, where you tell little tidbit stories of your life, come in, and that's the power, and that's what they do. And so that's why I've talked about that for so long. I said, look, and I still maintain this. For the most part, if you've written a blog post, people don't want to read the blog post in your email. They can read the blog post if they want to. Right. Tell them a story, pull out a message, and then send them to the blog post if they want the content. But it takes the pressure off you, because you're just trying to connect, and it makes it more enjoyable for your audience too.
Technical question. Do you wait until, like, if I grabbed an opt-in from you and then I'm part of your nurture sequence, do you wait till that's over before you put them into the newsletter list?
Yeah. So what I do is I have people get what I call my catch email, which is the first delivery email, which is basically I'm establishing trust and authority with that first email. So they get that, then they're going to get some kind of nurture sequence, which normally is an education piece, but now sometimes I add a sales sequence at the end of it. Then they get a welcome sequence, which is I actually start that now with the subject line of the first email, and that is, buckle up, it's about to get weird. And I tell people I'm about to send you basically my greatest hits emails. And by greatest hits, I mean they're the ones that people love the most and hate the most. And those always tend to be the same, because I want you to know what you're getting into. I want you to understand. And I drop a 4-letter word in that first one to tell them this is coming. And, I don't do it all the time. I don't cuss at people, but periodically I believe that those words happen to be sometimes the best word in a circumstance. And so I will use them from time to time. But I also tell them, look, this is what to expect. Expect this weird, different experience so they can do it. And so people then go through that welcome sequence, and it's only after that they get onto my weekly email. I think of the welcome sequence basically as orientation. Now, I went to college back before cell phones, no, I guess there were cell phones, but before smartphones. So, and I went to the University of Texas, which is a huge campus. So we all had orientation so we could learn where the different buildings are, because otherwise you wouldn't do it. It's the same kind of idea with a welcome sequence. You're giving people an orientation to your world so they know, who are you? What do you believe in? How can you help them? And then they can make the decision. Do they want to stick around or do they want to go? So that's what I do before you even get on it. In my world, it normally takes, I think, 6 to 8 weeks. We're going to start playing around. We have an idea to play around to let people, if they want to, binge that sequence. We may start that soon, where literally they can click a button if they want to get the next one immediately. But we haven't done it yet, but we're thinking about implementing that.
I don't even know how that technology would work. That is unbelievable. Whoa.
The problem, I have the idea and I tell my team, figure out how to make this work. Service provider. And that's what they're trying to figure out.
Oh, all right. I'm like, I've never seen that. That's a cool snafu, right? There's a little thing.
I mean, it can be done. It's just automations. But again,
right.
Yeah.
I got to produce this episode soon, because I need my team to listen to this and say, this is an idea. I'm just loving it. How often do you go through your own sequences to make sure that they're up to date?
So I do it periodically. And again, you have to think about, some of it is you have to think about what has changed in your business. Anytime you make a change in your business, you need to go back to your welcome sequence, because part of what you're doing in your welcome sequence is you're telling them like about your core content platform. So like, and that's one of the problems right now. Right now, mine only refers to my podcast. Well, I now have a blog that's pretty active. We have a YouTube channel. So we need to add that in as well. But also if you add new types of like offers, because part of what you want to include in there is make sure people know what you offer. And this came from, again, I stumbled into this the first time I launched what is now my template library, the pack of all the legal templates as just templates. I sent, I don't know, it was just emails over a week. And then at the end, the next day, I sent what's called a "Do You Hate Me" email. Literally, the subject line is "Do you hate me?" And it's joking and funny because that's my style, but basically asking people why they didn't buy. And it was weird. I got a lot of responses from people that said basically this: well, I didn't buy because I don't need all of them. I wish you sold templates individually. And I'm sitting there thinking, well, I do. I'm probably not good that people don't know that. Oh. And so this was when I recognized I needed to have emails in that welcome sequence so people would know the different ways that they could buy things from me. So again, when you add new things to buy, not little piddly $27 offers, but significant offers, that needs to go in. But then also when major events happen in the world, and this is an example I tell people, one of my most popular emails when I sent it out, and it was in my welcome sequence for a long time, was an email from when I was a prosecutor, when some ATF agents and the other prosecutors played a prank on me, making me believe that I was being called because the ATF agents were at were executing a search warrant. 2 of them had been shot. They had a barricaded suspect, and they were asking me for permission to use deadly force. I mean, it was the craziest tale ever. People went nuts, loved it. Well, you know, it probably never was funny now looking back on it, but in May of 2020, it became clearly not funny. And it's those things that, you know, even though it wasn't real, it didn't actually happen. I had to go back, and someone actually got the email and said, hey, and raised it with me. I was like, oh, you were right. And so we remove that from our sequence. And so it's things like that you have to think about. Are there things that don't age well? And there will always be things that don't age well. And you need to make sure you're aware of those as well.
That's so huge. I had a copywriter go through one of my sequences, and at the end it was like, I can't wait to see you in real life. Now I'm a in real life. Like I want to be at the mastermind. I want to hang out at the conference with you. If I see you, you're getting a big hug. Like it's just what's happening. But she was like, oh, and this was around that same time. And she said, Sarah, you can't say that right now. I was like, no, but I really do want to see everyone. So I'm there for it.
And again, we probably, like, ideally we should all probably be doing it, say quarterly, just literally just do a quick audit, make sure there's nothing in there that doesn't fit. But then it's also if there are big events, you know, you should just think about it then
in your business or the world. That's so great. And these are some of the tidbits that I really find that you are just one of the most generous people on the internet when it comes to marketing. I mean, the legal templates aside, I mean, the marketing, I met you for the legal templates and I stick around for the marketing. That's really what it's been for me. I send everyone that I can to bomb you. And I just think it's genius what you're doing there. I don't think, again, no one's teaching it, what you're teaching there. And you just keep coming up with new ways to serve your audience and serve your audience and serve your audience. And I hope that you become, you know, the biggest thing since sliced bread. In my world, you already are. You are like the gold standard of legal everything and now marketing. And I can't wait for the book. I can't wait to see what's coming next with Bobby and the team. I've gotten to really know Katie and Bobby Joe as characters in this whole TV show that, yes, if you stopped your email sequence, I would be just as sad as when Handmaid's Tale ended for me. That was like a devastating blow. Or my beloved Sex and the City characters from my, you know, high school days, you know, so yeah, just thank you so much. I'm going to send everyone to the show notes because there's links for both the legal templates and for Bomb You, where you can get the online marketing university that I so strongly believe in both of those things. And I just hope everyone gets on the list. But any other parting words, Bobby Klinck, as we wrap this up?
So, I mean, my parting advice to people is always, just do it. I mean, again, I don't want to steal it from Nike, but I mean, look, it's marketing, business, all these things. There's a lot of things you could worry about. And what I'm going to tell you is you're going to make a lot of mistakes. I made a lot of mistakes. I still make a lot of mistakes. But the thing I tell, and when I was at James Wedmore's BBD Live speaking on a panel at some point, and like there was a question that came up, and I don't even remember how it came up, but effectively my answer was this: the difference, because the panel was all the people in his mastermind who are, had very successful, thriving, multiple six-figure business. I said, the difference between us and other people isn't that we have better ideas. We don't. We have a lot of bad ideas. My team will tell you, I have a lot of dumb ideas. The difference is we take more shots. And so I tell people, get out there and take shots. And if it doesn't work, don't take it personally. Like I put out an offer earlier this year, crickets. So he said, okay, fine. They don't want that. We'll do something different. Not a big deal. And you have to have that attitude. And if you do, you'll build a successful business eventually. I mean, I can't tell you when. It might take you a year, it might take you 2 years, but you'll get there. You just have to be willing to keep getting up.
Oh, I love that. I love that for everyone. And I love to having you here as a guest, because like my audience who went to school to be a professional, it does feel kind of weird when you go to pivot into something else and when you're not good at it immediately. But whether it was, your first court case or the first time you figured out how to file a motion, I'm sure you asked a million questions and it was not so great. Just as I'm sure the first time that, one of my doctors had to go ahead and fill out patient notes into an electronic medical system like that. And that might still feel clunky for a lot of them, as I'm hearing. But that it's not always intuitive and easy. And this whole online marketing world is the same way. So to hear that from you is so great. Please go to the show notes. Please get on the list. Check for nothing else, just so you can get the whole sequence, so you can see what we're talking about, because you need sequences like this in your business. And I promise you, if you actually open them and read them, you too will fall in love with Bobby Klinck and his online personality and want to hang out. And I'm going to say it, I don't care. I hope we all see each other in real life really soon. So
me too. I'm an extrovert around my people, which are entrepreneurs. So yes, I am longing for it. I've put on, I don't do a vision board, but I've put on my mental vision board that social media marketing world will happen this year or next year, and I will be there. So I'm, fingers crossed, because I want that to happen desperately.
Let's go. I'm there with you. Okay. All right. I'll see you there.
Yep.
Thanks so much for listening. I want to hang out with you more. I truly believe your success is related to the people you spend the most time with. That's why I created the free community, the Girlfriends Group of Health Practitioners. It's a safe space for you to connect with other soul practitioners who don't just want to keep the doors of their practice open, but they want to impact the health of their community. Head over to www.sarah2gender.com and hit the tab at the top that says Group. Go in there and introduce yourself today. I'll see you soon.